Hello everyone, this is Jotto, bringing you the HearthStone Weekly, bringing you the top decks, bringing you the top cards, and bringing you my opinions on the state of the metagame for this week's tournament. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we? So, the top 8 of Managrind's tournament. Now, there's some staples here. We've seen some of these staples. There's these little bit of staples. Miracle Rogue, Rogue Aggro, sort of the Divine Shield deck we've seen before. Warlock Aggro we've seen before. What are the two breakout decks of this week, you may ask? Oh, maybe it's first place Paladin mid-range, but a little bit of late game beatdown. Like, it's a weird deck. It's like mid to late beatdown. You have some of the mid-range, and you have some of the early game, and some of the late game. It's like a big melting pot of random stuff. And then you have the Warlock Demon deck late game thing. I don't know what to call it. Confusion went on the stack, and then it resolved, and then I don't know what to call it. Okay, so I'm gonna get there when I get there. But first things first, SARS Paladin mid-late game beatdown thing. It's a mid-ish early game late game sort of control-y beatdown deck of beatdowniness. Now early game it plays the Aldor Peacekeepers and the Sunfury Protectors and the Acidic Swamp Oozes and the Argent Protectors, and it gives all your things protection from various things, and then makes other stuff useless. And then late game, you put your Senjins, your Guardian of Kings, your Stormwind Champion, your Ragnaros. It's basically early game, late game, mid game, all in one melting pot. You heal up your things with Guardian of Kings to get you out of the races, and then you put Sunwalker down, because it's like Sunwalker. Got an Assassinate? No? Okay. Senjin being Senjin. Even Dark Iron Dwarf. Garnish doesn't see a lot of play, but I think he's very underestimated. 4/4/4 with an upside? Okay. Now, there are not one, but two Rogue Aggro decks. Back to back. Okay, let's start with this one, because it was my deck. My deck again. Pretty similar to the last time I went over this thing, but anyway. So it plays the standard fast ringleader Fairy Dragon Acidic Swamp who is smashing in the face combo early game with Leprechaun. And then late game it has the crazy Gadget Stand draw a million with some of the more control-y things like Sap and Perdition's Blade and Assassinates. It's just a very weird sort of aggro deck thing that also cycles a minion card late game because it needs a late game, right? Like, you don't always kill people by smashing them in the face. And then there's this deck, which kills people by smashing people in the face. Very similar to the last deck, apart from one thing. Doesn't play late game, plays a bunch of early game. And Youthful Brewmaster go balancing all the charges. You have South Sea Deckhand, Brewmaster, South Sea Deckhand, Brewmaster, South Sea Deckhand. No more Brewmasters, because you've already played two. Whatever, 6 damage. Same with Wolf Rider, oh, it's 9 damage, but you can't play it because there's too much mana. There's too much mana. It's too much, it's just 10 mana to do the combo. Whatever. Anyway. Even then, it still plays Dalaran Mage, because Dalaran Mage is like, it's aggro, it's controlled, it's mid-range, it's everything, it's a 2/4 with spell power, there's not much you can do about it. And then the late game, instead of playing the Gadget Stand combo, it plays the Assassin's Blade and the Deadly Poison. The Assassin's Blade and Deadly Poison is 20 damage. Game 2. Fourth, Miracle Rogue from Brian SC. Another deck that showed up a couple of times before. Miracle Rogue, the staple of the format. It's been around for months, and everyone likes it, because it's been around for months. It's like the old workhorse. Everyone knows it's there, but not everyone likes to use it. But anyway, this is a very standard Miracle Rogue deck, with Mana Addict, and Questing Adventurer, and Novice Engineer, and Shadow Step, and Ringleader, and Iron Becal. It's just combos. So play card, conceal. Attack. Play card, conceal. Attack, you're dead. Now, 5th place, a Divine Shield deck. Another deck we've seen before. You notice the pattern here. Some of the better decks are coming back, and they're coming back hard and fast, and they're coming back to kill you again. And this is a Divine Shield deck, where everything protects each other. Until you play Blood Knight, which takes away the protection, but then becomes huge. Okay. Argent Commander is ridiculous, and Knife Juggler helps with early game, and Argent Squire is really hard to deal with sometimes, and just help with your Blood Knight triggers. You even have things like Scarlet Crusaders, man. Scarlet Crusaders in standard decks. Wow. A card is very underestimated, played a lot in Arena. but not in these sort of standard decks, man. People don't play the Scarlet Crusader in standard decks. I think it's a card which is very underappreciated. It's a 3/1 for 3. I understand with Divine Shield, very underappreciated, but does some serious work sometimes. And then there's the late game bomb where you play Tyrion and you say, do you have a polymorph or a hex? No? Oh, sweet, game 2. Now, 6, the Warlock Demon Melting Pot of Things. The Warlock Demon Melting Pot of Things. I should have named it that. Anyway, so this deck basically plays Sense Demons to search for you crazy demons, because it says Sense Demons. There's demons in the name of the card, because it draws 2 demons, whatever. Anyway, so late game it has Illidan Stormrage with crazy triggers, and Lord Draxus with a crazy weapon, and making big things. Big things. And then early game it has the Iron Beak Owl, and Twilight Drake, and the Void Walker. And you play Sense Demons, search for other stuff, and even has Blood and Dread Infernal. And Mortal Coil. Just a bunch of control, and then a bunch of late game, and it's a melting pot of demon things, which is awesome. Now, 7th, the Warlock Aggro deck. It's obligatory. The obligatory Warlock Aggro deck. This time played by Magic Mats. Okay. Let me give you a rundown of the Warlock Aggro deck. Turn 1, Flaming. Turn 2, Knife Juggler. Turn 3, King Mukla. Turn 4, Leroy Jenkins. Turn 5, Doomguard. You are now dead. You get the picture here, and if you can't play any of those things with the curve, you're like, okay, life tap 1 drop, or life tap 2 drop, or draw cards, and you never run out of cards because you're drawing 2 per turn, or you can play Soulfire and discard something but do things for free. And Rave Leader gives you all crazy triggers, and RB Cal lets you get over taunt, it's awesome, and Argent Squire is a weird card in aggro deck, but it works. Argent Squire getting some recognition today. Man, Argent Squire getting some recognition. 7th into 8th. That generally is what happens at the bottom of the top 8. Now keep in mind, between sort of 5th and 8th, they all did the same in top 8. I just want to clarify this because a lot of people have been asking me, like, why am I positioned third? Because I don't know why I'm positioned third. Okay, basically, if you go from 5th to 8th, then your position, because you all got knocked out at the same time, so your position is based on your performance in Swiss. So while this deck technically performed the worst in Swiss out of all of them, it's still a ridiculous deck because that was a big tournament. We had a 50 people tournament, man. Even getting like top 8 period is ridiculous. Like, all the top 8 decks are amazing, and that's why I get to talk about them. I like talking about them, and this is another Miracle Rogue deck with Cleave. Okay, so you play Novice Engineer, then you play Shadow Step, then you play Novice Engineer, then you play Shadow Step, then you play Novice Engineer, then you play Cleave. Have fun. That is pretty much all you need to say with Miracle Rogue decks. And oh, you don't have Cleave? Okay. Questing Adventure, Novice Engineer, Shadow Step, Novice Engineer, Shadow Step, Novice Engineer, Conceal. Have fun. Now, that is a Mana Addict, Novice Engineer, Shadow Step, Novice. You get the picture. You get the picture with this crazy deck. Miracle Rogue is a weird deck. It's a deck which a lot of people don't like. Don't get me wrong, a lot of people hate Miracle Rogue, partly because they don't want to play it and they hate it when they play against. But it's one of the most hilarious and funnest decks to play. And the fact that we managed to get 2 in top 8 is awesome. Because it's a very sort of niche deck that some people love and people complain about, even though, like, it's not sort of the true enemy of the format. It's just really fun and maybe could use a nerf or 2, but I'm not going to go over that. I mean, I'm going to talk about what sort of should be tweaked a little bit later in the show. But anyway, onto the top 5 neutral cards. Senjin is not in. It's not in the top 5. 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 Senjin is gone. Senjin is gone. Senjin is not here. Hallelujah. Senjin isn't in top 5. In top 5. Senjin is gone. I don't have to talk about this card and its stupid impact in the game because it's not in top 5. Next. Kazakhstan Auctioneers. 6 copies of the 3 decks. Now, in this case, it was all played in rogue decks. But think about it. 5 mana. 4/4. Okay, you're good. So 4/4 means it has some crazy ability, right? Every time you cast a spell, draw a card. Every time you cast a spell, draw a card? Really? Like, you're playing rogue, right? Yeah, play this. You're playing shaman, play it. playing Hunter, maybe play it. Maybe if you have the slot, play it. Warrior, play it. Priest, play it. You get the idea here. It's draw power on a 4-4 for 5. The 4-4 for 5s are ridiculous. And this is no exception. This is one of the strongest ones, arguably. But it's really hard to call because all the 4-4 for 5s are amazingly powerful. It just so happens that this one synergizes with rogues the best, so that's why it's being played the most. Now, Iron Beak Cow. Now, you can't really talk about Iron Beak Cow without talking about Spellbreaker. Oh wait, they're both here. Silence is being respected. Silence is being respected. Basically, silence is battle cry. Destroy target Twilight Drake. Spellbreaker is better mid-game, Iron Beak Cow is better early game, and for combos and for like Warlocks arguably, because they get the life tap and then play this instead of playing Spellbreaker. But Spellbreaker has a bigger body, so it's better in mid-game, and so it's kind of like, which do you want? Do you want mid-game, early game, mid-game, early game? You have the little scale things, you put them in the scales, and you're like, do I have mid-game? Yes. Do I have early game? No. Iron Beak Cow. Do I have early game? Yes. Do I have mid-game? No. Spellbreaker. Now, an interesting thing to know, equal amounts of copies, Iron Beak Cow played in one more deck. Why does that make sense? It's because Iron Beak Cow is a more splashable card because of its low stats and its low cost. Whereas Spellbreaker is more of a sort of play 2-of in this deck because it has very solid stats, so you get to play both just for the stats sometimes. You never want to play Iron Beak Cow just to play a 2-1, but you might play a 4-3. Acidic Swampoo is Noxus's mascot. This thing kills everything weapon deck. Like everything weapon deck. If you have a weapon deck, he is now dead. Any questions? No weapon deck dead. Okay. Oh, here's a question. What happens if you don't have any weapons? Oh, it's okay. It's a raptor. It's a 3-2 for 2 that smashes you in the face on turn 2. Or on turn 1, depending on if you're going first or second. Really hard to debate with the Acidic Swamp beat you in the face. I need to rename it to that. The Acidic Swamp beat you in the face. It is a 3-2 for 2 that has an amazing upside. It's the Hate Raptor. There's lots of Hate Raptors, and this is one of the strongest ones. Now, so my state of the metagame. Wait a second, I've missed a card. Now, why did I miss a card? You may want to ask. Oh yeah, it's because it's a 1-drop. It's a 1-drop. You don't quite understand. Having a 1-drop in top 5? What? Like, really? A 1-drop in top 5? It's a sweet 1-drop. Don't get me wrong. Leopardome is amazing. Like, it's a 1-2 for 2. And it deals 2 damage. Yay! 2 attack, 1 health, and deals 2 damage. Doesn't look too good, but it really is. It trades with the stupid coin openings, and it does all this crazy stuff late game because it's direct damage, and if they're low on health, they don't want to kill the stupid Leopardome. Yes, a 1-drop has that effect late game. It's almost like Organ Infiltrator. Although, arguably better in some situations and worse in others. It's better in trading than Organ Infiltrator. Why? Because it still does its damage. It still does its damage to the enemy hero, whereas Organ Infiltrator does damage to one thing and not both. And that is why I prefer Leopardome personally. Organ Infiltrator is another 1-drop you probably should try out. But this was played exactly the same amount as Ooze and Spellbreaker and Iron Beak Cow, though in less decks. And it's a terrific 1-drop, and you should not underestimate this thing. So, onto the metagame. Again, properly this time. Very diverse. Apart from the rogues. Okay, so Blizzard is walking down the street with a nerf bat. There are a couple things that need to hit with the nerf bat right now. One is rogues. That's the obvious one. Rogues, they were having issues with mid-range, but now they're just playing super fast decks, so they don't have problems with mid-range anymore. Okay, that makes sense. So what do you do to them? Oh yeah, you make them slightly slower. That would work. But then, that's only one element of nerf bat. What happens if you nerf rogues early game again? Oh yeah, mid-range begins to dominate. Again, after 7 tournaments, we finally have a tournament without mid-range dominating. And now, if you nerf rogue, all the mid-range comes back. So what do you have to do? You have to nerf rogue, but you also have to nerf the mid-range and maybe some of the shaman stuff. You just have to nerf mid-range in general and nerf rogue. Then you have a sort of healthy metagame where you have some aggro and some late game and some mid game and pretty good. I think control needs a bit of a buff, but the ultimate thing is aggro is in a good position. apart from rogue aggro, is too powerful. Mid-range is not in a good position because it's too strong. But that's about all I can read into it, to be honest. I mean, it's just too versatile. Just not good enough to beat those really fast rogue decks. So I think mid-range and rogue need to be hit a bit with the nerf hammer, and until that happens, we're going to have this kind of metagame. But when it does happen, we'll have a sweet metagame. But anyway, this has been Jotto. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, put a comment in the description below. But as for now, this has been Jotto, signing off.